We are very thrilled to have a special guest with us who's going to be on the call tonight with Jay Billis and Sean McDonough will have the call. So, Sean, we know that you were at the press conference for Jimmy Patsos and the Siena Saints. Who is a bigger character, John Gruden or Jimmy Patsos?
Oh, gosh, that's a great question, and I'd probably have to score that one a push. I think Coach Gruden is maybe a little more predictable than Jimmy in what he might say, but not much. But they are definitely two of the biggest characters I know, that's for sure.
How much of Jimmy Patsos' personality is why you and Jay are here tonight?
Oh, we were going to be here regardless. I mean, if Monmouth won, we'd still be here. But, it's always fun to be around him. I like people who are, themselves and not afraid to say whatever it is that's on their mind, and Jimmy's usually that kind of guy. So, I think, we were watching the first semifinal game yesterday, and my thought was really, hey, if we have Monmouth, that's great. They're a great story. Obviously trying to get back to the NCAA tournament after the great season they had last year and then being left on the bubble. And obviously if you have Siena, you have a great crowd, and that's really into the game, and there's a lot of great stories on their team, including Jimmy and, 4 guys who are 1,000-point scorers, and all the history here of Siena basketball over the years, particularly the history of this event in the Times Union Center. So, either way, we would have been happy with who got to the championship game from that side of the bracket.
Nico Clarenth goes off for 27 points in the second half yesterday. Does he seem like the X factor for both teams tonight? How he plays could decide whether or not Siena gets to the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I think so. And it'll be interesting to see how effective he can be. They didn't even know if he'd play. I know Jimmy thought he wouldn't play at all in the second half, and then he went on and put on one of the great performances in a half of basketball that I think any of us have ever seen. I'm still a little surprised that Monmouth didn't stay up on him. I don't know if he dribbled the ball once to make 7 threes, so they were all kind of catch and step into it, and they kept letting him shoot a pretty open three. So that was a surprise. I would assume if he does play and is out there at the 3-point line that Iona will do a much better job of being up on him. Who knows if he can really dribble and drive past anybody with the ankle such as it is. I know he's been getting treatment for the last 24 hours. So I think his effectiveness will be a big part of who wins the game, because obviously, as we saw yesterday, and as you guys have seen, watching a lot more Siena games than I have, when he's on, he's a very talented guy.
Sean McDonough with us right now, of course, the play-by-play for Monday Night Football, and on the call this evening for the Siena Saints versus the Iona Gales on 104.5 The Team.
Sean, I know you're a part of the broadcast, but you're still a sports fan in a sense. Do you enjoy these matchups where almost the season's on the line for both programs that bid to the NCAA tournament, or do you enjoy those bigger conference tournaments, the ACC and others, where you have the best and highest quality of basketball out on the court?
Well, I think I probably enjoy this more just because, when you go to the big conference tournaments, remember Jay Billis and I are heading right down to New York City after this game tonight to work the ACC tournament the rest of the week. For the most part, it might be the Clemsons and Wake Forest of the world, Georgia Tech maybe is trying to play their way in off the bubble. But, most of those teams are going to be in the tournament, and a lot of them, over the years, sort of the mindset has become, are you almost better off not making it all the way to the championship game, playing 3 or 4 or 5 days in a row? So, but, here, there's the great pressure of knowing, if you win, you're in the NCAA tournament. If you lose, you're not. So, and I just love, there's so many. I sat there last night with the SIDs from these 2 schools and with the PR people from the MAC, and listen to Doug Sherman and Rob Kennedy, who are so knowledgeable about this conference and the teams. There's so many great storylines. There's no way we'll get in even a small percentage of everything that we now know about these players and teams. So this is fun, because most of the people who are watching tonight have never heard of most of these players, of any of them, and it's a chance for us to tell their story at about the same time talking about a meaningful game.
You bring up a fellow Syracuse alum and Doug Sherman, yourself a Syracuse alum, which you like to call it the Harvard of Central New York. Do you think your Syracuse team can get into the NCAA tournament, or do they have some work to do still in the ACC tournament?
I think they're in. I think they've done enough. I think that win over the weekend against Georgia Tech probably cemented it. I think it's less questionable than it might be in other years just because the bubble is so soft. I mean, it's almost hard to pick the teams, enough teams that are deserving of going based on the resume. So I think with the high quality of wins, now admittedly Syracuse has some really astounding losses, particularly early in the year. But, when you have some of the wins they have against the teams that they beat, teams like Duke and Virginia and Florida State, I think that gets you in.
Sean McDonough with us right now, 104.5 The Team, of course, Monday Night Football and everything else. Like I'm looking at your bio right now, Sean. Is there anything you haven't called yet that you want to? I mean, you've done holes in golf, you've done luge, you've done almost everything. like, is there a sporting event you're like, you know what? I get that one, I'm good.
Well, when I did the Olympic luge, I think it was TV Guide said I was the best luge announcer, and I said, well, I'm the only luge announcer. I mean, there's not a lot of luge on TV, so I sort of won that one by default. But no, Monday Night Football has really been a dream come true. I think any of us in this business, especially if you like doing a variety of sports as I do, you just want to do the biggest events possible. I had the chance to do the World Series when I was at CBS. I've had a chance to work the Final Four for ESPN's international feed, do the Women's Final Four, the Frozen Four, all four of the golf majors, U.S. Open tennis. I mean, I guess, I think the one event that you'd love a chance to do someday is a Super Bowl. I mean, that's the premier event in sports in our country. And I don't know if that'll ever happen. Right now, at Monday Night Football at ESPN /ABC, we're not in the Super Bowl rotation, but maybe that'll change. So, I think if there was one thing on the map that anybody in our business would love to do, including me, it would be the Super Bowl.
Sean, we appreciate you taking some time with us, and do us a favor. When Jay Billis starts to rib you tonight about being up here in upstate New York, I know he does it when you do the Syracuse broadcast, you remind him the Capital Region is still Sean McDonough country, okay? Don't let him get away with anything else. Capital Region, 104.5 The Team, Levack and Goz. This is Sean McDonough country up here, too.
Well, I'll tell him you guys said so, and I'm always excited to be here. I spent a big chunk of my life in New York State, and we've done this game a lot. This used to be we'd do this game and then head down the old Big East tournament, Bill Raftery and Jay Billis and me. So we've had a lot of great games here over the years. It's a fun place to be, and appreciate you having me on.
Sean, just so you feel at home, we'll leave you with Spider 2Y Banana.
I have my Gruden Grinder T-shirt on right now. I have to go get a little exercise before the game tonight.
All right, Sean, man, thank you so much for making time. We know you're busy getting ready for the game, and we hope you have a great call.
Well, it should be a fun game, and as I said, appreciate you having me on. Have a blessed evening.
You too, friend. Oh, man, Sean McDonough's a cool guy.
Awesome, man.